This time of year I do lots of seeding. You're actually out here in the greenhouse with me right now. There's a thunderstorm going on in the skies above me, and we're supposed to get snow tonight. I have a fairly decent sized greenhouse. I've got a 9 by 21 foot greenhouse, but we do all of our seed starting actually in my house on racks with in a much more controlled environment than my greenhouse is. My greenhouse temperature fluctuates a lot in the daytime, and it's a little bit hard to keep things a bit more consistent. So I have a limited space inside my house, so that I'm doing a little bit of testing this year to see if I have different results with my seeding methods and to see how I can make it more space saving as much as I possibly can. So this here, let me go grab them real quick. Now, my standard way of seeding is using these seed trays here. These are actually amazing seed trays from Neversink Tools. They are about as indestructible plastic seeding trays that you can get. They're heavy duty. They have root pruning holes in the bottom and slits up along the sides, so they are really good as far as air pruning the roots. I really enjoy using these, and this is one of my preferred methods, but just the amount of tomato seeds I seed in itself takes about 11 of these flats. So they're about a 10 by 20 inch seed tray, and that takes up a lot of space on my grow shelves. And so in the past, long ago, I've also used these seed trays here. It allows you to more densely seed them, but the thing is then they're not an individual growing like little squares where you would pop this up, pop them out and plant them in a bigger container. You have to divide these out because the tomatoes or pepper plants or whatever it is you're growing will grow in more of a cluster. So another method I am trying this year, this is actually a method I have never used before, and it's growing them in a container. So basically you just take like a seed tray, and then you fill it with soil and sprinkle the seeds on top of the whole tray. And then again, you'd have to dig these out individually, separate them out, and then plant them into a bigger container when they're ready. So I will keep you updated on how that process goes and which method I tend to like more. Okay, to show you kind of what I got going on here in my little seeding container, I have just regular seed starting mix. It's important to use seed starting mix versus potting soil, just regular potting soil. One, it's a much finer mix, so your smaller seeds like pepper seeds, eggplants, tomato plants, whatever, don't have a problem with the bigger perlite. So smaller size perlite, just in general, and smaller vermiculite in it, just general, a much finer grade potting soil. Also, a seed starting mix will also be sterilized, and that's really important to make sure whatever you're using to start seeds in is a sterilized mix. So a good quality potting soil mix will be slightly damp out of the bag. It should never be really bone dry, but it's important before you put your seed starting mix in the trays that you're going to use, whatever growing container that you're going to use, that you add some water in first. This helps just get all the soil wet. Now it shouldn't be wringing wet. I usually mix the big chunk of it in with a tool, and then I mix the rest by hand and break it up, make sure there's no big clumps. But it should be fairly wet, not to the point where you're really wringing out water from it. That way when you go to add it into your seed tray, that one, it being a denser mix will help it settle a little bit. I have the tendency when you put your seed starting mix in a tray and it's dry, then when you go to water it, it kind of settles. This way, when you put it in, you can lightly tamp it afterwards and it settles into the tray nicely, so you don't have a lot of air gaps. So what I'm doing here is just filling my tray. I just grab handfuls and just push it in. Now you want it to be well settled, but I always say you don't want it to be concreted in there, because you want those roots of the new plants to be able to root into your container. So I just go ahead and fill it in like that. Just like that. I always take and clean off the edge. Like I said, these go inside my house, so I already do bring a lot of soil into my house. There you go. Once you get that cleaned up, you can kind of tap it down a little bit just to make sure you've got the soil settled in, and there you go. You're all ready for seeds. Once I kind of get my seed trays filled, they go into a regular flat. Now, if it was in my greenhouse, I would use flats with holes in them, but since they're in the house, I used flats without drainage holes. The nice thing is then you can bottom water these, where it'll then soak. If you put water into the bottom of the trays, it'll pull it up through the bottom of this cell, and it'll bottom water. And if you like the content of these videos, follow along, and next stage would be seeding some vegetables. Stay tuned.